Okay, so we have entered both an adult and a child client. So now I'm just going to go over some other functions, including the ability to link your clients into a household, and other things you'll just need to do with clients from time to time. So first, I'm going to focus on updating client needs, as well as other client data. I'm going to go to well, actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to start by searching for clients first because that's what I am about to do. So to search for clients, there's two ways to do it. You can click clients and then search cases. And by default, this is going to this is going to display all client IDs that have a first contact date within the last 90 days. And I can see a lot of you are entering clients here. That's awesome. If you need to see a client who's older, their first contact date is earlier than this date range, you can change this period to whatever you are looking for. There's this handy little range drop-down menu. So if you want to look at all the last 5 years of clients, you could just do that. You will need to erase these dates for that to work. And then if I search, now I have over 1,700 clients over the last 5 years. So you can drastically change your search criteria. You can also search by client ID by just typing in the partial. If I type in ICJIA, it will bring up all clients that start with those characters. You can search by age and even client type. The second way to bring up a client is simply by typing the client ID in here. And I believe this also works even if you enter a partial client ID. Okay, so I just typed that in and hit my enter key and it produced the same results. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the adult I entered. Okay, so this is the adult I entered. Okay, here it is. This is the same adult that I entered earlier today. So that's searching for clients. Now, I did already go over this, but so it's recorded. I'm going to also show how to edit a client ID again. If this is the wrong client ID, I want to change that. I just, while viewing the client, click Client Summary. I can change this, edit the client ID to whatever I need to, and then save. It is going to warn me, but I just want to make sure, it's just making sure I truly do want to make that edit. And now if I am viewing the same client's record, same client, all the data I've entered are intact, but now the client ID is something different. Okay, so let's get into updating client needs and other client data. And this is one of the major features that we upgraded as part of InfoNet Stepping Forward, and we're our new features as of December of 2023. So I entered needs for this client. You may remember I checked certain needs. So now, let's say it's 2 weeks later, and I want to update. I want to, this client has received services, perhaps, and I'm going to do another needs assessment with this person. So to update their client needs or really anything else, because all of these things, while a client is engaged in services, a lot of these things change over time. Employment status, education, we all obviously get older, number of children, and up before December, all of this data had to be what was true around the time of intake. And providers have been saying for a long time, it would be nice if they could measure or look at how things change, because a lot of these things do change while a survivor is engaged in services. And now you finally have the ability to do that. So if you want to update information for your client, you want to click this link right here, Client Updates. And it's going to take me to an update summary page. Now, all I have entered for this client is their intake. I've never entered any updates before. I can either edit this intake record, but I'm not going to do that. Everything I've entered there is fine. Right now, I want to add an update for this client. So I'm going to click New Client Update. And I need to first enter the date of my update. And the earliest you can do is 14 days. It won't let you do any earlier than that. So we heard that for the most part, that probably the most frequent you would do this is every 2 weeks. Most might do it monthly or even quarterly. And again, this is an optional function. Nobody's requiring you to do it. I should say, except HUD. HUD, if you get a HUD grant, you are going to be required to update this data on your clients. My update date, their first contact date was May 1st. So I'm going to say we're updating 2 weeks later, which would be May 15th. And I'm going to say that this client received some employment assistance advocacy. So she's now got a job. So I'm going to change from not employed to, we'll say she got a part-time job. So I'm updating her employment from not employed to part-time. And since she now has another source of income, I'm also going to update her income information. So I'm going to pretend that she's still getting these two sources, but now we're going to add earned income. I'm going to say she's earning $1,500 a month additional of earned income. And we're going to leave this the same. And now I'm going to look at her needs. It's 2 weeks later. Maybe that's a little short for doing another needs assessment. Maybe monthly is more realistic, but nonetheless, it's 2 weeks later and I'm updating her needs assessment. So you may recall when I entered this person's intake, I indicated she had a need for these things, or these were the needs that were present at that time. And they are marked with a yes in the previous need column. Everything I didn't check is marked with no. So now that I am doing an update, I'm going to look at all the needs she had previously. I'm also going to look at what services this person has had since that last assessment. And I can indicate whether this need was addressed internally, meaning with services from my own organization, or maybe this need was also helped addressed through one of my community partners or an external organization. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other, sometimes it's both. If I check the external box, this also enables external agency, and I can actually indicate this is another field that's tied to my local agency list, and I can indicate the specific organization that helped my client address this particular need. And then the last column is a box that I want to check if this is still a need for my client in the present assessment. Just because we address a need doesn't mean it's fully addressed. Sometimes needs are never fully addressed. So don't be surprised if you find yourself checking this box, even though they've had services to address the need. So I'm going to go ahead and check it. And you just want to do this for all the needs that were indicated at their last or most recent assessment. And I'm going to pretend the safety planning need is addressed. So I'm going to leave this unchecked as a continuing or new need. This need is no longer a need. We took care of it with services. That's why I checked the internal, and I'm going to leave it unchecked because that need has been addressed. And then as I scroll down, I can look at all the other needs she had last time. I can indicate whether or not that need was addressed internally, externally, or both. I'm going to say those are no longer needs. And individual counseling wasn't a need the last time or 2 weeks ago, but I'm going to say this is a new need. So I'm going to check this box for the current assessment. I am going to pretend I helped this person file for an order of protection. So that need has been addressed, but I'm going to help them when it comes time to extend that order. So I'm going to indicate it as a continuing need. And then any of these, if you see them as an existing need at that point in time, you can check this last box for continuing and new needs. I'm going to say, and sometimes needs can't be addressed. Sometimes they weren't able to receive services and there was no community partner. So sometimes you're going to see a yes here, but it wasn't able to be addressed. And maybe it's still an existing need. Maybe it's not. It all depends on what your client's needs are at that point in time. Okay, so I have finished my needs assessment, updating that as well as some other data points about my client, specifically income and employment status. So I'm going to save. And once I save, it identifies the things that have been updated with a red check mark. So this tells me something was changed here, specifically the employment, income. We didn't change anything here, so no red check mark. And we updated the client needs. So I see that this has been changed. And then if I click the client updates link, I'm going to be brought back to that summary table, and it shows me the client intake and the black check marks. I forgot to describe what those mean. The black check mark simply means that data are complete for that section. There is some data in that section. If I skipped the benefits insurance section at intake and I didn't enter anything there, you would see a blank here. And then for the update I just added, I can see the update date. It's for May 15th. I can see from looking at this table, I updated something about their demographics, their income, and their needs, but I didn't make any changes here. So InfoNet's going to assume that those are still as they were at the point of intake. So that's how you enter an update for your client. And there is a slightly more detailed training on this because I wasn't able to go over every single detail, but you can get those details by going to the public website, clicking on user information and resources, and you'll see the very first training is about needs and updates. I think it's about 45 minutes. So feel free to take a look at that. And that concludes the client update section.